She stitched a stranger on a wine cellar floor and never asked his name. Loretta Bishop had cleaned the Whitlock estate for 9 years. Black, slender, head housekeeper. The kind of woman who moved through marble halls without leaving a sound. She carried a coffee tin labeled with her sister's initials and counted tips in 50-cent pieces. Her mother's pearl earring sat in her left ear every shift. On a January night, the cellar light was on when it shouldn't have been. A man was bleeding against a rack of 1996 Bordeaux. Korean. Tall. A dragon tattoo curling up his neck to the underside of his jaw. He told her his name was John. He was lying. His real name was Min Jae-han. Inside the family, they called him Snow Wolf. Heir to a syndicate his grandfather built, the man whose mother had just booked the Whitlock estate for a wedding and demanded, in writing, that no black staff appear in the photographs. He came back. He kept coming back. And then he asked her something the staff entrance was never built to hear. But what Loretta carried into that wedding hall was older than the dress, older than the ring, older than the man waiting at the altar. Before starting the story, comment down below where you are watching from and what time it is there. If stories of karma, love, and hidden truths move you, leave a like. Be sure to subscribe to the channel and click Join to become a member and help our channel. Loretta counted the tips by lamplight, slid the bills into the coffee tin, and tapped the lid down with the side of her thumb. 52 short. The tin said AB in black marker. She set it beside the kettle and stood there with her hand on the lid, like that might add the rest. The kitchen radiator hissed. She opened the freezer, shut it, opened it again. Adelaide's infusion was Tuesday. Boots in the hallway. Mr. Whitlock didn't knock, never did. He pushed the swing door open with his shoulder and stayed in the frame, the way he stood when he was about to say something he didn't want to repeat. "The Hans confirmed," he said. "Triple your week." Loretta wiped a thumb across the lid of the tin. "I'll need you Friday through Sunday." "I'm here Friday through Sunday." "You're invisible Friday through Sunday." He pulled at the cuff of his jacket. Mrs. Hahn was specific. She didn't ask what specific meant. She'd worked 9 years of brides. She'd seen the diagrams of the photographs, the staff line, the family line, the line where you stand and where you don't. "No black staff in the pictures," he said finally. She put it in writing. A car horn somewhere outside. The radiator hissed again. "Triple," Loretta said. "Triple." She nodded once and reached for the apron on the chair. He watched her tie it with the small twin loops her mother had taught her, the loops she could do with her eyes closed. Then he left. Outside the kitchen window, snow had started over the marble steps. She'd scrubbed those steps every Sunday for 9 years. She slid her mother's pearl drop back into her left ear and went to lock the cellar. Adelaide was at the kitchen table when Loretta got home, scarf a deeper green than usual, the wooden cane hooked over the back of her chair. The mug for Loretta was already steeping under a saucer. "How short?" Adelaide said. "Not short." Loretta. "Not short anymore. Whitlock booked a wedding this weekend. Triple." Adelaide watched her sister hang the coat. "What's the catch?" "There isn't one." "There's always one." Loretta sat. She drank the tea. She didn't tell her about the photographs. "Tuesday's covered," she said. "That's all you need." Adelaide reached across the table and pressed 2 fingers against the back of Loretta's hand. Loretta let her. Then she got up and started the dishes. That night she dreamed about her mother. She dreamed her mother was polishing a banister Loretta had never seen. 3 months before the Hans booked Whitlock, Loretta had been the only person left in the building. A January wedding had canceled at 4 in the afternoon. A bride's father in a hospital. A phone call from a man who didn't apologize. Whitlock told her to lock up alone and shut off the wing. She did the dining hall, the gallery, the back parlor, the staircase. She left the cellar for last because the cellar took longest. The light in the cellar was on. She stood at the top of the stairs with her hand on the iron rail. Whitlock didn't leave the cellar light on. Nobody did. The bowl cost too much, and the wine didn't like it. She went down. A man was sitting on the slate floor against the rack of 1996 Bordeaux, with one hand flat against his shoulder. The hand was wet. The wet was dark, and it was making a small pool on the stone. He looked up. He didn't reach for anything. His eyes found hers and stayed there. "Don't call the police," he said. Loretta didn't move. "Please." His English was clean. He was breathing the way men breathe when they're counting their own breaths. The collar of his shirt was open, and there was something on his neck. Black, shaped, deliberate. But she didn't let herself look at it. She had decided on the third stare that the less she saw, the safer she would be. "I'm going to stand up now," she said. "Okay." She went back up the stairs. She locked the side door from inside. She got the suture kit from her locker, the one she kept for Adelaide's port sight. Gauze rolled tight, lidocaine, curved needle, the sharp scissors with the green handles. And she came back down. He'd taken his jacket off. The shirt was already cut along the seam by something she didn't ask about. "Through and through?" she said. "Through." "Sit forward." He sat forward. She knelt behind him, wiped down with iodine, and set her thumb on the muscle to find the entry. He flinched once when the needle went in, and then he didn't flinch again. She worked the way her mother had taught her at the kitchen sink. Small bites, even tension, no slack. And didn't speak except to ask him to breathe out before she pulled the second stitch tight. "What's your name?" he said. "You don't need it." A pause. The needle through, the loop, the knot. "John." "All right." She did 6 stitches in front and 4 behind. She wrapped him in gauze, and she wrapped the gauze in tape, and when she was done, she sat back on her heels and looked, finally, at his face. He was watching her. He had been watching her the whole time. "I won't ask you for anything else," he said. "Good." He stood slowly, found the jacket, found a wallet inside the jacket, and pulled out a card. The card was matte black. There was a phone number on the front in silver. There was no name. He took a pencil out of an inside pocket, a real wooden pencil, sharpened, and wrote one line on the back, then held it out to her. She read it without taking it. "Call this if anyone ever follows you home." "I won't call," she said. "Take it anyway." She took it. He put the pencil back in the same pocket. He went up the cellar stairs the way someone goes upstairs when they are deciding which leg to lead with, and she heard the side door open and close. And then there was no sound at all, except the hum of the cellar light. She sat on the slate floor for a long time. Then she stood up, cleaned the blood off with the cloth she'd brought down for the rack tops, put the cloth in a bag and the bag in her coat, and went home. She didn't call. She put the card in the inside pocket of an old purse her mother had used for church, a brown leather purse with a broken clasp she'd been meaning to fix and never had, and the purse went on the high shelf in the hallway closet, behind the box of Christmas lights, behind the box of her mother's letters, where she didn't have to look at it. She didn't tell Adelaide. She didn't tell anybody. For 3 weeks, she expected something. A car at the curb, a second man at the cellar door, a photograph of her face in a place where her face shouldn't be. None of it came. The cellar got mopped, the Bordeaux rack got reordered. Whitlock complained about the heating bill and never asked why the side door's deadbolt had a fresh scratch. By the 4th week, she had stopped touching her coat pocket every time she passed the closet. By the 2nd month, she had almost convinced herself she'd imagined the dragon at the edge of his collar. Friday night, after Adelaide had gone to sleep with the radio on, Loretta opened the hallway closet. She moved the box of Christmas lights and the box of her mother's letters and took the brown leather purse off the shelf. The clasp was still broken. She unzipped the inside pocket. The card was there. The number was there. The pencil line on the back was there. She held it under the bulb in the hall and read the number for the first time in 3 months. Then she put it in the apron pocket of her uniform, the one with the safety pin, and she went to bed. He came back on a Tuesday. She was scrubbing the upstairs bathroom of the bridal suite, the one nobody used because the drain was slow, when she heard the side door, 2 notes of the deadbolt. A pause, then footsteps that knew the building. Loretta stood up. The brush stayed in her hand. She went to the top of the staff staircase and looked down. He was at the bottom, in a charcoal coat with snow on the shoulders, holding a paper bag. "You didn't call," he said. "I told you I wouldn't." "I came anyway." He held up the bag. The bag steamed. "Dumplings," he said. "Better when they're hot." She didn't move. He didn't climb. They stayed like that for a full minute, her at the top, him at the bottom, the bag between them giving off steam under the security light. "Why are you here?" "Because somebody stitched me on a cellar floor and didn't ask my name. I want to know hers." "Loretta." "Loretta what?" "Bishop." He set the bag on the 3rd stair from the bottom. He stepped back to the door. "Eat them," he said, "or throw them out." He left. She stood there until the side door clicked. Then she went down and picked up the bag. She ate 2 of them in the kitchen, standing. He came again on Friday, and the Tuesday after. Always after staff hours. Always a paper bag. Dumplings, pork bone soup in a sealed container, soft tofu stew. Once a small box of mooncakes wrapped in red paper. He never came up the stairs unless she told him he could. She didn't tell him for 3 weeks. Then, one night the snow was bad, and she said, "Wait inside while I lock the gallery." When she came back, he was sitting on the bottom stair with the bag in his lap. She sat 2 steps above him. They ate without speaking. He used chopsticks. She used a plastic fork because she'd forgotten the wooden ones at home. "You know the back staircase has a draft," he said. "I know." "3rd step from the top. Loose board." "I know." "How long have you worked here?" 9 years. "You moved through this building like you built it." "My mother did," she said, and then stopped, because she hadn't meant to say that. He looked up. "Did she clean here?" "A long time ago." He didn't push. He set the empty container on the stair beside him and asked her, instead, about the cellar. The slow drip in the south corner. The crack in the wall behind the 1989 Bordeaux. He asked it the way a man asks who has already mapped a room in his head. By the 5th week, she knew the dragon on his neck started under his right ear and ended at the hollow of his throat. She knew the scale work was fine, and that the tail vanished into the seam of his shirt. She didn't ask about it. He didn't offer. In the 9th week, he told her his name was not John. "Minjae Han," he said. She was wiping the counter. She didn't stop. "Hun, like the Hun wedding next quarter." "Hun like that." "Your family." "I'm the son." She kept wiping. She wiped the same square twice. "Snow Wolf," he said. "That's what they call me. Inside." "Inside what?" "You already know." She set the cloth down. She turned around. "Get out," she said. "Loretta." "Get out of my kitchen." He stood. He went. He didn't come back for 11 days. On the 12th day, he was at the side door at 6 in the evening with no bag. The same charcoal coat. Snow on it. "I'm getting out," he said. "You are out. You're standing on the stoop." "Out of the family." She held the door. "There's one way. I marry a woman they can't attack publicly. Not a politician's daughter. Not a banker's daughter. Not a name they can lean on. They lean, and the lean snaps back on them. You came here to ask me to lie for you. I came to ask you to marry me. She closed the door. Then she opened it again. Say it on the stairs, she said. He came inside. They went to the back staircase. He stood on the bottom step. She stood on the floor below it, level with him for once. Marry me, he said. Why me? Because you stitched a man you didn't know and asked nothing back. Because I have watched you for 9 weeks and I have not seen you turn away from one hard thing. Because you have nothing my family knows how to take. That's not love. I didn't say it was. She looked at his hands. The hands were steady. One condition. Tell me. Your mother does not find out who I am to you until the day of the wedding. Not the week before. Not the night before. The day of. At the altar. Why? I want to see her face, she said, before I see her hands. He held her eyes for a long time. Done. The Han wedding booked at Whitlock 6 weeks later. She didn't tell Whitlock she was the bride. She didn't tell the staff. She walked the diagrams of the photograph lines without flinching and listened to Mrs. Whitlock list the family preferences. No black staff in the pictures. She put it in writing, with her hand wrapped around a clipboard. Min-jae handled the rest from the outside. The dress was made by a woman in Flushing who didn't ask questions. The fittings happened at 6 in the morning in a back room above a dry cleaner. Loretta tried the silk on in front of a single mirror and didn't recognize the woman in it. Adelaide knew. Loretta had told her on a Sunday, sitting on the foot of her bed. Adelaide had cried the kind of crying that happens with no sound. Then she'd said, Mama would lose her mind. Maybe. Mama would lose her mind in a good way. Maybe. The day before the wedding, Loretta did the silver inventory. She did it every quarter. The silver lived in the archive room behind the gallery, a long, narrow room with a wall of shallow drawers, the kind libraries used for maps. Top drawers held the silver. Bottom drawers held the building's papers. Loretta had never opened the bottom drawers. They weren't her job. She had a clipboard and a pencil. She counted spoons. Halfway through the second drawer, the pencil rolled. She caught it, set it down, reached to steady the clipboard, and her knee bumped the bottom drawer beside her. It opened an inch. She kept counting spoons. She finished the row. She closed the top drawer. Then she knelt on the carpet and pulled the bottom drawer all the way out. Photographs. Leather binders. A roll of old blueprints. Staff photographs in cardboard sleeves, by year, by season. She pulled the spring 1985 sleeve. The photograph was square and faded yellow. 8 people stood in a line in the marble hall outside the gallery, the same hall she stood in every morning. 6 men in dark suits, 2 women in housekeepers' uniforms. Charcoal with a white collar and a white apron. The cut hadn't changed in 40 years. The woman on the left was her mother. Loretta sat back on her heels. Hattie Bishop, 28 years old, looking at the camera with the same expression Loretta wore in her driver's license photograph. The same oval face, the same set of the mouth, a pearl drop in the left ear. Loretta touched her own left ear. The personnel binder for 1985 to 1986 was 3 sleeves over. She knew it would be there before she pulled it. She pulled it. Hattie Bishop, hired April 1982. Dismissed March 1986. Reason? 1 handwritten line in slanted black ink. Disrespect toward an honored guest. The signature underneath was a name Loretta knew. She knew it from invoices, from seating charts, from the small printed cards on the bridal suite door. The signature was Hae-won Han. Loretta read the line again. Then she read the next page. Then she read the page after that. The honored guest's name was nowhere. The disrespect was nowhere. The line stood alone. She closed the binder. She opened it again. The cleaning lights on the gallery side timed out. The room went dim.
She didn't get up.
She sat there with the binder open in her lap until the building's heat clicked off for the night, and the only sound was her own breathing. And somewhere down the hall, a clock she'd never noticed before struck 11. She didn't sleep. She put the binder back where she'd found it. She closed the bottom drawer. She walked home through snow that hadn't been salted yet,